All right, so the cables for this bag are worked over a 20 stitch repeat. So within the pattern, the repeat is from the middle of these single crochets to the middle of the single crochets. So from here to here is 20 stitches. And I'm going to make a swatch that is going to be just this section right here to show you the proper stitch placement of these post stitches to create the curving and to show you how to get these post stitches to wrap over and under each other. The pattern calls to use a 4mm crochet hook. That will create a cable that looks like this. However, for the purpose of the tutorial to show you, I am going to use the same yarn, which is Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton, and a 5.5mm crochet hook. So using a 4mm is going to make showing you the stitch placement a little bit more difficult, just because it's going to be harder for me to get in and around the stitches to create the posts. By using a 5.5mm, as you can see, it makes the cable a little bit larger, but it also loosens up the material quite a bit, which will allow me to get in and around and behind all of these stitches much more easily, so that on camera you'll be able to see it better. Just to clarify, within the pattern there is a note in the note section that tells you that whenever you create a front post double crochet, you have to skip the corresponding single crochet behind it in the round that you are working. While I'm doing the tutorial, I'm going to remind you of that, but make sure you remember, if you're just reading off of the printable pattern or the free pattern on my blog, that I'm not calling out all those skipped stitches, because it just it makes the pattern very busy to constantly be calling out all the skipping. So you just have to know that whenever you create these, you have to skip the same amount of stitches. So when we create two front post double crochet stitches, you have to skip the 2 single crochet stitches that you won't use. When we do 4, you have to skip 4. So I will remind you of that throughout the tutorial, but just make sure that you remember within the pattern that that is not called out. It's only noted once in the note section. This is just a little bit of scrap yarn that I have left over from a previous pattern. This is Lion Brand's 24/7 in Jade, I believe. This should be enough for me to complete my cable, and I also wound this using my center pull method of winding by hand. I have a video for that. I will link that in the description if you're interested, but this is a great way to keep your scrap yarn. So to start, what I'm going to do is I am going to make a set of 20 foundation single crochet stitches. If you don't know how to do a foundation single crochet, I also have a video tutorial for that, which I will link in the description below as well. But I'm going to make a set of 20 foundation single crochet stitches because this particular cable is worked over 20 stitches. And I am just going to be making one cable for the purpose of this tutorial. All right, so I have created my 3 rows of 20 single crochet stitches, and I am going to begin showing you how to create the cables. Now, I would suggest that on your first round for this bag that you use some stitch markers. This is the most important round of the bag because these front post stitches are going to be what guide you the entire way up with the cables. What I would suggest is mark your first stitch with a stitch marker and then count over your 20 stitches and mark your 20th stitch with a stitch marker. So you know that you're working within the correct amount of stitches, and do that all the way around. That is going to, I would hope, guarantee that you place the first set of front post double crochet stitches in the correct spots, because then from there you're working off of those. So that's going to help keep you where you're supposed to be throughout the pattern. But if this first row isn't right, it could jump your cables around. So I would suggest grabbing yourself some stitch markers. Okay, so the first row of cables, what we are going to do is we are going to place 4 single crochet, and then we come down into this previous row. So not the row that we're working in, we need to come down to the previous row, and we are going to count over 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this 7th stitch, we are going to front post double crochet, and then we are going to front post double crochet again. Since we created 2 front post double crochet, we have to skip 2 single crochet of the working round. So we skip these 2 single crochet, and then we are going to place 2 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. We are then going to come back into the previous round, and continuing where we left off with these 2 front post double crochet, we are going to create another 2 front post double crochet. We are then going to skip 2 single crochet in this row that we are working the front post double crochet in, and place another 2 front post double crochet. So what we did is we just created 4 front post double crochet over 6 stitches with these 2 in the center being skipped. And so what we need to do, because we created 4 stitches, we need to skip 4 stitches. So we're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4 single crochet of our round, that, well, row in this case, but in the pattern for the bag, round. So round or row, you skip the 4 single crochet, and then we come in to the next one, and we're going to place 2 single crochet. We're then kind of come back down into this previous row or round that we are working our post stitches in, and we are going to place another 2 front post double crochet. Skip 2 single crochet, and we are going to single crochet in the remaining stitches, which there should be 4. So that is working the first base of the cable over the 20 stitch repeat. And so that's why I think it's extremely important for you to mark your first stitch and your 20th stitch when you are working the bag rounds, so that this way you can make sure that your placement for these stitches are correct. So what you should have is you should have 4 single crochet, then 2 front post single crochet that come forward 2 stitches. You skip 2 single crochet, place 2 single crochet, and then coming back to where you left off with your front post double crochet, place 2 front post double crochet, skip 2 of the single crochets in this previous round that you're now working with, place another 2 front post double crochet. And so because there's 4 that you created, even though you're working over 6 stitches, you only made 4, you skip 4, single crochet in the next 2, and then you're going to place your next 2 front post double crochet, continuing again where you left off. Skip 2 single crochet, and then single crochet in your remaining 4 stitches on your 20 stitches that creates the repeat. So you would repeat this 8 times on the bag pattern itself, but if you're just using this tutorial just to learn the cable, then you're only working over 20 stitches. But you would then continue on with another 4 stitches, and then you would jump forward 2 stitches from that to continue with the cable. So in between the cables on the bag and the rounds, you're going to have 8 stitches between your last and next front post double crochet. So just make sure you keep that in mind, that you're counting 4 and then you're counting 4 again. So that's why these placing stitch markers is important. Anyways, then what you will do is your next row or round consists of only single crochet stitches. So you're going to turn your work, and you are going to work 1 single crochet stitch in each stitch around, whether it be a single crochet or a front post double crochet. So your stitch count does not change in any of the rows or rounds, whichever way you are creating your cable. The repeat always has 20 stitches, never any more, never any less. And that is also a great way for you to check to make sure that you're not potentially skipping any stitches when you do this, is that you can count 20, 20, 20 and keep doing that, so that this way you know you're not missing anything along the way. And then if you do have a repeat, that say you end up with 21 stitches, or most likely you would probably end up with maybe 19 or 18, only because when you are working these post stitches, if you look here, in this area, they can get kind of really tight and bunched up, and what can happen is when you go to do your return pass of single crochet stitches, sometimes in here it's hard to see every stitch, and if you're not paying attention or counting, you could possibly skip one of the post stitches in here when they're kind of wrapping on top of each other. So it's very important that you make sure you have your full 20 stitches within your repeat. So now that you have your first set of front post double crochet, which I'm going to refer to this as essentially your foundation of your cable. Once you have this foundation of your cable set, going forward, it's super easy. This will guide you all the way up, because you're going to just be jumping back and forth between these cable, I'm not really sure how else to word them other than the cables going up. You're going to be able to follow them. So if you look at my cable, you could see where this is coming and curving up, and then it's going under these next set of cables, and it's coming and curving around, and you can actually see how the stitches are weaving through each other. So this set of cables of front post double crochets are extremely important to make sure that all of this flows properly. So as long as this is all set up, you should be smooth sailing through the rest of these cables. So let's start our second row or round of the cables, which technically is our round 3 in the pattern. Okay, so these next set of instructions is noted in the pattern as round 3 under the cable section. So to start round 3, in our case, rows, what you need to do is you need to place 3 single crochet stitches, and then you are going to place a front post double crochet around each of the next front post double crochet. So if you remember from the previous round, we started out with 4 single crochet, and now we're starting with 3 single crochet, and that is starting to pull this over to the side. You are going to skip your 2 single crochet because we made these 2 front post double crochet. So skip 2 single crochet and then place 3 single crochet. Okay, so this is going to be our first set of front post double crochet stitches that we have to cross. So we are skipping these next 2 front post double crochet, and we are going to front post double crochet around the next 2 front post double crochet. Now what you need to do is you need to come in behind these 2 front post double crochets that you just worked. Come in over here to the first front post double crochet that you skipped. Put your hook in between the front post double crochet and the single crochet so that you can work another front post double crochet. You're going to bring your hook back around that post, and you're able to now flip these 2 front post double crochets forward. So complete your stitch as you normally would for a front post double crochet, and then you're going to repeat that and do it again on the next one. So working behind these 2 front post double crochets, you pick up your next front post double crochet. Oops, sorry, I think I'm out of the camera. You pick up your next and then work, oops, I keep dropping my yarn. Work your double crochet as you normally would. So now what you've done is you have just created 4 front post double crochets, but if you look, it's kind of a little bit bunched up because you crossed them over each other. So you need to skip 4 single crochet stitches on the back of your working round. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Come into this next stitch and we are going to single crochet 3. See that? And now we are going to front post double crochet in the next 2 front post double crochet of the previous front post double crochet round for the cables. Skip 2 single crochet, and then we are going to single crochet 3. So for round 3, you should have 3 single crochet, 2 front post double crochet coming around into these first 2 front post double crochet of the first cable round, skip 2 stitches and then single crochet 3, skip these 2 front post double crochet, jump forward and front post double crochet around these 2, and then you're going to jump back and working behind the 2 that you created, you make your next 2 front post double crochet, skip 4 single crochet 3, make your last 2 front post double crochet, skip 2 single crochet, and then single crochet 3. Now what we are going to do is we are going to turn our work and we are going to do our return pass, which is going to be 20 single crochet. All right, I just want to make note also that this first set of cables, our foundation set, we had 4 single crochets on each side, making us, that gives us 8 single crochet between each cable on the bag. For these last 2 sets of front post double crochets for the cable, we had 3 single crochets on each side, right? Because we're bringing the cable out to create the curve. So within the bag, you're going to have 6 single crochets between the cables on the bag. So just keep that in mind. The number of stitches between the cables does change, but you're always working over 20 stitches. This next row is called out in the pattern as round 5 of the cables. This round in the pattern is very straightforward because there's no crossing of cables and we're just going to be coming straight down into where we already placed our cables. So to start this round, or in our case row, what we are going to do is we are going to single crochet 3 as we did in the last cable row or round. And then we are going to front post double crochet around these first 2 front post double crochet, skip 2 single crochet, single crochet 3, and then we are going to front post double crochet around these 2 first front post double crochet, and these were the ones that we created and we worked behind. Now we are going to place another 2 front post double crochet around the next 2, which are behind these 2 that we just worked. So you're coming straight down, but you might have to do a little bit of digging to find them. So you could pull these forward, kind of stretch out this space and look behind, and you could see they're right here. So you're going to come in, grab them right here, and just push those out of the way and create your next 2 front post double crochet around the 2 that are behind those other ones that are a little bit hidden, but they're much easier to get to than when you had to cross them. Now, since we just created 4 front post double crochet, we have to skip 4 single crochet on the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, place 3 single crochet, and then come down and make our last 2 front post double crochet, skip 2 single crochet, and then place our last 3 single crochet. So just again quickly, this one is really simple. It's 3 single crochet, 2 front post doubles, 3 singles, 4 front post doubles, 3 singles, 2 front post doubles, and 3 singles. None of those have to cross or wrap or do anything. They just come straight down. That is one of the easier rounds or rows in this cable. Now I'm going to turn my work and I am going to single crochet back across. All right, moving on to what is noted as round 7 within the pattern for the cables on the bag. We are, but in our case, rows. I'm gonna try to not say that anymore. I think at this point we've established that I'm working in rows. The bag pattern is worked in rounds, but again, we are turning at the end of each round, so it's the same stitch placement. So round 7 for the cables within the bag starts out with a single crochet of 4. So we are starting to bring the curve of the cables back in. So we single crochet 4, we front post double crochet in the first 2 front post double crochets. We then have to skip our 2 single crochets back here, single crochet 2, and then skip 2 front post double crochets and front post double crochet around the next 2 front post double crochet. So now what you have to do is, just like we did in not the previous cable round, but the one before it, we need to work behind the 2 front post double crochets that we just created. So yarn over, bring your hook back and around, back and around that front post double crochet, flip the 2 that you just created forward, and then complete your stitch as you normally would. Do that around the next skipped front post double crochet, and then skip 4 single crochet and single crochet 2. Front post double crochet around the last 2 front post double crochet in this cable, skip 2, and then place your last 4 single crochet. So running through it quick again, it was 4 single crochet, 2 front post double, 2 single crochet, skip 2 front post double crochets, jump forward and front post double crochet around the next 2, come back and work behind those 2 to front post double crochet around the 2 that you skipped, skip the 4 single crochet that you did not use when you created these 4 double crochet, single crochet 2, front post double crochet 2, skip the 2, and then complete it with your 4 single crochet. Turn and create your return pass. Moving on to what is round 9 in the cable section of this pattern, we start with a single crochet of 5 stitches. And then we front post double crochet 4. So we do these first 2 here, and then we jump all the way forward to the next 2 and we place 2 more front post double crochet there. So that is 4 front post double crochet stitches, and what we need to do is skip 4 single crochet, and then we are going to single crochet 2, and we are going to front post double crochet around our next 4 front post double crochet. So again, these ones are behind a little bit, so you gotta kind of squish your cables around to find them. Once you find that first one, finding the next one is easy. So front post double crochet in those 2, and then jump all the way forward to the last 2 front post double crochet within this cable and front post double crochet around those. Skip 4 single crochet and then single crochet. What did I skip 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then single crochet in your last 5 stitches. Turn and work back across. So that last round was single crochet 5 and then front post double crochet 4, so 2 around the first 2, jump forward to the 2 that crossed over the last one, skip 4, single crochet 2, and then front post double crochet 4 with the first 2, working in the ones that are behind here, jump forward to the last 2 front post double crochet in those, skip 4, and then front post double crochet, single crochet 5. So the next round in the cable section is noted as round 11. And what we are going to do here is we are single crocheting again 5 stitches. 2. So between cables on these rows, you have 10 stitches between them. We are going to skip the first 2 front post double crochets, and we're going to come forward and we are going to front post double crochet around the next 2 front post double crochets. Then what we need to do is, working behind the 2 that we just created, we need to work in the 2 that we skipped. So get behind those stitches, complete your front post double crochet as you normally would, get back behind them again to grab the second one that you skipped, create your next front post double crochet, skip 1, 2, 3, 4, insert your hook into the next stitch, and you will single crochet 2, skip the next 2 front post double crochet and jump forward to the last 2 front post double crochet in this round, place 2 more front post double crochet, and these ones we have to come back and work these, and this is different from the rest of them in the pattern. We are now working over the 2 that we just created, so that is quite a bit easier to find them. But you have to make sure that you pay attention in this round specifically to where you have to work behind and where you have to work over, and I will show you why in a moment. So we just created 4 front post double crochets, so we have to skip, oh gosh, see, this is where it can get bunched up and you can mess up your stitch count. So make sure that you're skipping the proper amount of stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in this 5th stitch, and then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 remaining. This is single crochet 5, front post double crochet 2. By skipping the first 2, create your next 2 working behind the 2 you just created, skip those 4 back there, place your 2, skip the next 2, jump forward and front post double crochet, and then working over those ones, you will front post double crochet in the last 2 that you skipped, skip your 4 single crochet, and then place your final 5 single crochet. Now, the reason that this round is extremely important that you remember to go behind and in front of is because if you don't, what will happen is, is where on this side of the cable where it comes over, if you don't work them over, this part is going to come over, be mirrored like this is, where you have this over and this over, this portion of the cable will come over. So imagine if this was wrapping over and it would continue to do that. So it's very important that you make sure you work over and not under or behind those cable stitches. You are now going to turn and work your return pass. Okay, so while I'm doing this, this is a perfect example. So I have single crocheted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches on my return pass. And if you can see, if I turn this just right, see how tight some of these, the tops of these front post double crochets get when you're crossing? This is exactly what I'm talking about, why you have to be really careful when you do your return pass and how you could skip stitches, because you very easily could jump one of those not realizing. So see, and now how they opened up more. So that's very, very important when you are doing your return pass, is that you pay attention specifically to these little sections. Can you see that? See, it just gets bunched up quite a bit. So be mindful of that. All right, we are in the home stretch. This is the last cable round before it begins a repeat. Does that make sense? So this last round that we are going to create, which in the pattern is noted as round 13, is the final one. And then after that, you're just going to keep repeating yourself forward from rounds 2 through 13, and this will repeat. So let's create our final cable round. All right, so for round 13, we begin by creating 4 single crochets. Then we create 2 front post double crochet in the next, well, first 2 front post double crochet of the cable. Skip 2, 1, 2, oops, single crochet 2. Now, you also need to be mindful of sometimes it might feel like your stitch placement is wrong because of how far back you're starting with your single crochet stitches. It's not, it's just how the cable gets pulled around. So be very careful with that stitch placement. Then we need to come and create 4 front post double crochet around these 4 front post double crochets that are in the center of the cable. These next 2 are kind of behind a set of front post double crochet, so you got to dig in there a little bit to find them. Then you grab the next one, front post double crochet around the next 2 front post double crochet. See, it's so much easier to find them using the bigger hook than with the smaller hook that the pattern calls for, which, by the way, if you wanted to, you could use a slightly larger hook on the bag. It's just going to give you a lot more stretch, but it might be easier to do if this is your first time doing cables. Or I would suggest making yourself a swatch like I'm doing with something a hook that's a little bit larger, just so you can get the stitch placement right before you jump into the bag with the smaller hook. So we just created these 4 double crochet. So now we have to skip 1, 2, 3, 4 and place 2 more single crochet. 4 front post double crochet, excuse me. And then we are going to front post double crochet around our last 2 front post double crochet, skip 2, and then single crochet in our final 4 stitches. Ooh, can you hear my wrist cracking? I have been making so much lately. My hands hurt. It's terrible, but hey, it is what it is for the things that we love, right? So now you're going to turn and do your return pass, and then that is it. So you will move on in the pattern. This return pass is technically a repeat of round 2 in the pattern, and then you would continue on with round 3 for the cables. Okay, so now that we have run through the cable repeat, I am going to show you next how I attach the straps to the bag once it's completed. I hope that you're successful in making your bag. I hope that this was helpful. Please make sure that you like and subscribe if you are not going to watch the duration of the video for the strap attachment. And yeah, catch you in a minute. All right, the straps that I created start with 10 foundation single crochet. We then decrease to 8, and then we decrease to 6, and we work the majority of the strap in 6 stitches. Yeah. And then we increase from 6 to 8 and then to 10. Okay, so I hope my light is not too bad right now, but I'm going to show you how we attach these straps onto our bag. So if you look on the side that I attached, these straps fit perfectly in between the cables. So there's 10 stitches between this final cable round, and we have 10 stitches at the beginning and the end of each of our straps. To attach, we are going to be using a surface slip stitch to join it all together. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to place our straps in the proper position. So here we have 2, 4, 6 rows, and here we have 2, 4, 6 rows. So we're going to be going right to where this increase ends to attach, and we're going to put it just right here in between the 10 stitches. So you're going to insert your hook. Do your best to keep things aligned right here. So I'm just gonna kind of force that in there and make sure that that is still properly placed, and it looks like it is. And then you're going to take your yarn, what's left of it, and you are going to grab your yarn through the back onto your hook, pull it through the bag where you picked up in between these loops, and pull it through the row end on your strap. So keep this tail out. I find it easier if you turn the bag as you go, so that this way these stitches stay nice and even. And you're going to come down into your next row end, find the stitch that corresponds behind it, grab your yarn like this, and pull it up through the bag and the strap. So we're going to go into the next row end, push our yarn through both pieces, both the bag and the strap, yarn over, and pull it up through. Come into our next row end, which now we're getting close to the point where we should be between the straps. Yarn over and pull it through. I'm going to put my hook into the first foundation single crochet, and then I am going to find the last front post double crochet, and I'm going to go into the top of that stitch. Come back here, grab my yarn, and pull it through. Now that we have anchored this stitch at the this last stitch on this cable, we now have 10 stitches in between to anchor these 10 stitches with. So continuing doing these surface slip stitches, I am going to put my hook through the next stitch all the way through onto the bag and continue pulling through. I'm going. So now I've come to my last stitch, and I'm going to make sure that I anchor my last stitch into my what I'm going to call my first front post double crochet of the next cable. Pull through, and then we are going to work our way back up using the row ends. Again, putting our hook through the row end and then through the bag on the other side, and pulling our yarn up through, creating these surface slip stitches. So we have this pocket here, and what we need to do is, using each stitch across in this row, we are going to do another set of surface slip stitches so that we can close up this pocket in the back. Okay, so placing my last one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut, pull my yarn all the way through, and then to hide this beginning and end, you come into the beginning stitch, come under both, grab your yarn, bring it around. Can you see that? So we're grabbing under that loop. Is that focusing? Grabbing under that loop. We are going to then come up in between our last completed loop right here. Oh, you little monkey. Grab the tail and pull it all the way through. And then what that does is it takes this tail and it finishes it off nicely, so you cannot tell where this begins and ends. We just have to weave in these ends and then repeat this on the other side. Okay, I now have my straps attached on both sides of my bag, and what I did on this first strap was I single crocheted together some of my row ends to kind of create more of an area to hold. You don't have to do that, but I think it gives it a really nice finishing touch. On this side, I feel like this just is not enough. On this side, I want to make it a little bit bigger than I did on this side, because I feel like this just isn't big enough, but this is a portion of this is a part of the pattern that you can adjust or skip. So to do this, what I'm gonna do is here I came to about here. I'm gonna come down a few more rows. I'm not gonna count, I'm just gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna insert my hook through both row ends like this. Take my yarn over, pull it through both. I'm gonna take my tail here, yarn over to create a slip stitch right here. Pull that tight to attach my yarn. And I'm gonna insert my hook again in those same 2 row ends and create a single crochet. Now I am going to repeat that all the way up and over to the other side to make it symmetrical by just joining the corresponding row ends using a single crochet. Also note that I am doing this with the right sides facing, so that this way it's going to put the front of the single crochet, is that not focusing? There we go. It's going to put the front of the single crochet towards the front of the bag, whereas if you look at this one, this is the back of the single crochet, because when you flip it around, it's at the front of the bag. So just make note that you are doing that the same on each side. So it looks like I'm getting to where it's just about centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count my rows: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. It looks like I left 20 open. So I'm going to come back here: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So I've got to come to here, do these last couple. I definitely like having more of this closed up than just this smaller section. So I'm gonna go back, take this out and tighten that up. But yeah, I think that looks good, right? I like this a lot. I hope that you have enjoyed making this bag. I hope that this tutorial was helpful. And I will be coming back at you with more bags and definitely more cables, because I really enjoyed making these and they look awesome, don't they? All right guys, so that's it for today's tutorial. Make sure that you like and subscribe so that this way you never miss one of my new videos for a new pattern.